Hi guys, in this hair tutorial I'm going to be taking you through the basic cornrow techniques. Okay, so we're ready to start the cornrow process. As I mentioned before, I've sectioned Summer's hair in half. On this side, on the right hand side, I'm going to focus on showing you guys how to actually do the cornrow technique. This is just your basic straight back cornrow for any wig fitting or weaving technique that you're doing or protective styling. And on this side, I'm going to be doing something a little bit more creative with my sectioning technique. So the first thing we need to do is we need to establish what kind of size cornrow we're going for. So for Summer's section here, I'm just aiming to put in just 4 lines in here just to demonstrate for you guys on how to do that technique. If you look at Summer's hairline, she has a little bit of thinning here from over time of styling her hair in sleek ponytails and using gels. So we've got a little bit of breakage that's happened here. So one thing I would note, if you have someone who's got similar hairline and situation going on here, similar to what Summer has, try and avoid forcing that hair to be going into the braid. What I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to use this hair and lay it down similar to what I might do baby hairs. So I'm just provisionally applying a little bit of my edge control product. So again, to just remind you guys, I'm using the Style Factor Edge Booster edge control product for here. So I'm just going to lightly lay this down just like this for now, and then when I finish I'll go back into the actual styling that. Okay, so I'm going to be going in with more like a medium size section because of the amount of lines that I'm aiming to put in the hair. So using my pintail comb, I'm just going to do a straight line going straight back, okay? Now, because of the head shape, if you look at someone's head shape, it naturally starts off a little bit wide and then it goes a little bit more narrow. So I'll turn her around in a moment when I've created this line here. And I'll show you guys how you want to make sure that as you get lower to the nape area, your section is naturally going to come in a little bit more on the narrow side so that you've got enough space to actually fit in all the lines that you're going to be putting in. So we started off a little bit more wider here at the front, but once I get to this point here, it naturally becomes a little bit more narrow because the head shape goes in as you come lower to the nape area. So you always want to remember that when you're doing your sectioning for your cornrow. This will ensure that when you actually get to the base here, all your lines are going to fit nicely. If you don't do that, you're going to find that if you maintain the same level of width that you created from the start coming towards the back, you're not going to have any hair left to actually braid by the time you get to maybe like your 4th line, depending on how many sections you're actually doing in the hair. Okay, so now we've sectioned the hair here. I'm just going to turn her back around, and I already mentioned about using the edge control as my styling product. So at the back of my hand here, I have my edge control product here, and this is just my moisturizing cream. So with Summer's hair, I already put moisturizing cream when I did the blow drying, but I feel that I could add a little bit more moisture to the hair before I proceed with the actual braiding down of the hair that I'm actually going to do. So I'll just pin this away, and I'm just going to take a little bit of that moisturizing cream here in my fingers, and I'm just lightly working it through towards the middle and to the ends of the hair. That's where it tends to feel a little bit more dry. So I'm just doing the same thing all the way through to the back as well, just along that section that I already created. Okay, now the next thing we need to do now is to then apply our edge control. So the edge control product is specifically focused on being applied towards the root area. This is where we want to get that hair a little bit more smoother, because naturally when you actually do your cornrow, it's going to sit very flat and close to the scalp. So this is where the product has to go. So I just take a small amount of product and just put it on my hand, on my finger here. Just a small amount of the product is what you need, and you're going to focus your application just on the root area here. So I'll just take that through both from the front part of this section and around the sides. So if you notice that I'm just applying that close to the root, okay, and I'm not taking that through all the way through to the hair. So if I just turn Summer around and continue to apply my product, I will do this all the way through the whole section. Okay, now if I was doing this kind of braiding for a wig fitting or doing a weave for someone's hair, I might not necessarily put this much of the glaze all the way through the section like I did on both sides. I would likely just start with a little bit around the front here. So now I've got that product in, what I need to do is to just, using my pintail comb, I'm just going to start to comb that product into the hair. So this will just help to spread that product further up the hair, just slightly. So we still don't want it to go all the way through the hair, but we just want it just a little bit more further up the hair there, okay? So once I've done that and I'm happy with that product being in the hair, then I am ready to start the process of actually doing the cornrowing technique. The next thing I need to do now is to actually start the process. So when you braid your hair, any braiding technique that you're doing, you're working with 3 segments for the process to actually be done. So what I'm just going to do is to section out a small section of hair to just establish the starting point. I always like to comb through the hair just to make sure that it feels as detangled as possible. And I just took a little bit more of my edge control in my fingers here, and then I'm just smoothing that up the rest of the hair there a little bit more further, okay? So you can do this if you feel that the hair needs it, but if not, if you're happy with the amount of edge control that you have, then you just leave it as that. So the next thing I'm actually going to do is to talk you through what I'm doing in terms of the actual process of the cornrowing technique, okay? So when you're doing your cornrows, you're working with 3 sections, all right? So I'll focus on showing you the movement of the sections first, okay? So with the movement of the sections, you're either going to be moving your section starting with the left-hand side section, or you're starting with the one on the right, okay? It depends. You can always start with the right-hand section, or you can start with the left-hand section. I tend to just start with the left-hand section. I don't know whether it's because I'm right-handed. I just always start with that way, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm taking that section on the left and it moves behind the section in the middle, so not in front. If I was to take this in front, we're going to end up doing more like a French braid, but what we want is more similar to a Dutch braid, or specifically a cornrow technique. That's what we're aiming to do. So I'm going to take this section here on the left hand side. It's going to move behind the middle section. The right hand section is going to exchange with the middle section again, and then it's going to move behind. So essentially what we're doing is we're exchanging from left to the middle, right to the middle, left to the middle, and right to the middle. So that is the movement of how the sections are moving and exchanging, okay? Okay, so now you know the movements of the sections. You need to work out how do you actually add the hair to the braid as we go along. So the next thing we need to do is to again go back to that starting position in terms of the movements of the hair. So Sama, if you just lean your head down for me, thank you. I'm just going to quickly show you again the movements. So you got your left hand section moves behind the middle section, and then the right exchange it with the middle. So at this point here, when that right hand section transitions to the middle section, this is the point where you're going to pick up a small amount of hair, and then you're going to bring it to the middle section. Now the reason why I'm bringing and adding the hair to the middle section is because of my hand positioning. Because of the positioning of my fingers and how I'm holding the hair is going to determine how the movement of the sections are going to be in the hair as well. Okay, so we'll go back again to that position that I had the hair before. I'm going to pick up a small amount of hair. Now with the picking up of the hair, you don't have to go straight through the section. What you can do, the wider the section, it's easier to just take a little bit of the hair. So if you look at the section here, you need to work out where about is round about the middle of that whole section. So the middle is somewhere around about here. So when I pick up hair, I'm just going to take a little bit of hair that I'm going to say this part here is more to the right and this part here is more to the left. So when I say I'm picking up hair more from the right, it just means it's much more closer to this side than the other side, okay? So when I pick up that hair to add, I'll just quickly demonstrate this. So you pick up this hair more from the right side. When I pick up the hair, I'm going to bring it over and join it with that middle section that I had here. So when I join that hair now, then I can then exchange the left with the middle section. So always remember which section is moving to where, okay? Because it's quite easy to kind of like confuse yourself, and then you end up moving one section too many times than we need it to. So when I add that hair to that middle, I will then exchange my left hand section here with the middle section. And again, I need to take a moment and add hair to that middle section before I exchange the right hand section with the middle. So now I'm picking up that hair more closer to the left compared to what I did before. I bring it over to the middle, okay? And then I'm going to exchange the middle with the right hand section. So those two have exchanged. And again, I'll continue the process, pick up a little bit of hair, bring it over to the middle section, and then it's going to be the middle section exchanging with the left hand section, okay? So essentially now I'm actually braiding the hair. So I'm just demonstrating the picking up of the hair, bringing it over to the middle section here, pick up that section up again, and then you're going to exchange the right with the middle section. So essentially that's how you pick up your hair and you add it to that as well, okay? So the next thing I want to talk about is your hand positioning and where you position your fingers before I go ahead and completely do that line. Okay, so I don't want you to feel that you need to change the way that you position your fingers in terms of how you hold the hair. But one key thing I want you to get from this is that whenever you're doing any form of braid work, the principle to achieving great tension and a nice finish to your braid or any form of styling that you're doing that requires this method of styling, your fingers have to be as low to the scalp as much as possible. So it's almost like you're constantly in contact with the scalp while you're doing the process. So I'm just going to demonstrate the way that I position my hands and my fingers as well. So one thing to note is if you're positioning your fingers the way that I'm holding the hair right now, naturally your elbows are going to be raised out, and then naturally your fingers will be pushed forward because you're creating more tension. By raising up my arms, it forces my fingers to kind of push slightly forward, which means I'm able to create more tension with the way that I'm going with the braiding. But if my arms were more closed in and I hold the hair in this position here and I braid going in this direction, because my arms are so closed in, you're naturally going to find that you end up using all your fingers, or also your braid will not have that tension that you want because your hands are too relaxed towards your body, if that makes sense. So you always either want to raise your elbows out. Even if when you're holding the hair in this position here, your elbows should naturally raise upwards, which will help you to push forward with your fingers and create that tension that we need to see in the hair to achieve a really nice finish with our braiding. So now I'm just going to go in again, starting position like I demonstrated about the movement of the hair, but you notice that my fingers, I hold the hair in this kind of like pinch position. So naturally when I braid, I actually use my thumb, index finger, and my middle finger on my left hand side and my right hand side when I hold the hair. I hardly ever use these other two fingers here. But if you find that you're holding the hair this way, okay, if you're still learning how to do this process, by all means, if you need to hold the hair this way, you can do that. But as you get more better at doing the process of cornrowing, you want to get to that point where you hold the hair a little bit more lower to the root and maybe reduce the amount of fingers that you're using when you're actually doing the braiding, okay? So I'll hold the position of my fingers low to the scalp. And what I'm doing is I'm just using my index finger here and my thumb to grab that hair that I need to switch to the middle, with the middle section switching over to the left. So when I grab that hair, it comes through that way. And then with my middle finger here and my thumb and my index finger, Sam, if you lower your head for me, you can just see that I'm pressing down here with my finger. My middle finger is pressing down on the hair so it doesn't move while I still hold the hair on that side, okay? And then when I need to take that hair over to the middle, I use my index finger again, just hook that section of the hair and bring it to the middle, and then take this back to this side. And already my middle finger is ready to press down on that hair while I hold that hair in position. I then raise these three fingers to create space between the two sections so that I can bring my index finger and hook that through, so I can grab that left hand section and bring it again behind. So this is kind of like the movement of my sections that I'm doing, okay, while keeping my fingers low. And then now when I need to actually add hair, I can then use my index finger to either push the hair that I want to add towards the middle section, while at the same time I'm getting ready to grab that section. So I know it can seem a little bit complicated and quite difficult when you're starting out, but the more you do this, the easier it becomes. It just takes practice. I mean, I had to do this a couple of thousand times, so I finally got the hang of it. So it will take some time, so just be patient with yourself and just practice that. But the key thing I want you to get from this is just work on creating that tension. Keep your fingers as low as you can. So don't worry even if when you do this the first line and it looks very, very messy, which is likely going to do if it's your first time learning how to do this. It might come through messy, but the key thing is focus on the movement of your sections, how to add the hair, and then how to just keep your fingers low. Just try to work on that tension. So if you do your first line and it looks very messy, just leave it in, don't take it out. Work on that finish as you get lower to the next sections here.